Hey everybody, I'm here with a very special guest today, and already off to a great start. And I've been wanting to kind of start a thing on my channel where I did kind of like these mini interviews with people who really mean a lot to me and have impacted my life in valuable ways and have just been a part of my life and stuff like that. And I wanted to start off with the person who has been my greatest role model, besides Jesus, obviously, but he's been my greatest role model, my inspiration, and the basically just the person that I always wanted to be when I grew up, so to speak. Um, and he just means the world to me. I'm here with my dad, if that wasn't clear from the intro. And I just wanted to come out here today. It's such a pretty day, and I couldn't think of a better person to begin this series with because there's no way for me to really put into words properly how much Dad means to me and all that he's taught me and the godly example he set for me in my life. And I just wanted to run through some kind of questions that I had that I'm interested to see what he's going to answer, and also just some fun stuff. It's going to be a mixture, kind of back and forth of fun, upbeat questions, and then we're going to get into some more heavy stuff. And I don't know what order the questions are going to be in. It's just whatever pops into here first. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
So first thing, I'm going to ask you a really light one. What's the meaning of life? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We'll start with something actually light. Tell me about Mom, how you all met, what that was, how long you've been married, just your love story.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the kind things you said. I sure don't feel deserving of all that.
He is.
Very thankful you feel that way. But let's see, your mom, other than Jesus, she's just the light of my life. And we met in Florida, in Tequesta, Florida. I was working as a head teller at a savings and loan called Community Savings. I've been there about 5 or 6 years. And I just recently got promoted to head teller, and your mama was my first new teller to be trained. And she came to work at the branch I was working at Gallery Square, and I knew right away that she was very special because she was so spiritual, and she's one of the very few people I've ever worked with that ever prayed over her food. And so we got to know each other, and we double dated with this other couple that was working there at the bank, and so then I went out west with my mom and dad to a few different states, Montana and Utah and Idaho, and we saw a lot of new territory. And I was gone for about 3 weeks, and so when I got back, I had a message from my supervisor that your mama had written her and wanted me to call her. So I called her, and we started dating steady, I guess you'd call it. And we dated from about August, and we got engaged in February. I think on my birthday, or maybe the day before my birthday.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And then we got married on June 11th, 1988. So this coming June will be 37 wonderful years. I've been blessed to be with her, and just so thankful to the Lord. I don't feel deserving of her either. She's way above my grade, but I'm thankful the Lord had mercy on me and let us be led together, and that sort of thing.
I did not know that you all got engaged on your birthday. That is really cool.
It might have been the night before. It was like
That's
a
birthday gift.
birthday present to myself.
Yeah, for real. I'm gonna stop for just a second because I'm worried about the audio. So I'm gonna pause and we'll be back in just a second. Okay, y'all, we're back. I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure the audio was okay, and it really wasn't. I could hear the river more than us, so we're picking it back up now. But I wanted to ask a follow-up question on the last thing. Mom once told me that it was a rule at the bank that people weren't allowed to date, or at least not get married, because there would be kind of like a conflict of interest. Did they have any issue with you all getting together even though you both worked at the bank?
Well, when we first started dating, I kind of thought your mama, well, I'd been there, like I said, about 5 years longer than she had. So if one of us had to leave, she thought that she would probably be the one to do that. But we ran it by our regional manager, and I think she talked to her supervisors, and they seemed to think that with our work record, it would be okay if if we continued to both work there, and so it worked out okay.
So they made an exception.
Yeah, they
pretty
made
much.
an exception. I just
Wow.
feel like it was the Lord's will that it all happened the way it did.
That's really cool. So I know things are a lot different now, but we talk about this a lot. Obviously they wouldn't know that, but we discuss about how difficult it is to find a person in the 2020s, even the 2010s. Just the present time. I feel like it's more difficult to meet someone than it ever has been before. Even with the presence of online dating apps, it seems like that almost makes it harder to make meaningful relationships. So, looking at how things are compared to what they were back then, what would be your advice to someone looking to start a relationship and to do it in a Christ glorifying way?
Well, like you said, with all the dating apps and the way social media is right now, you just have to be so careful. And I would say the way your mama and I both did is just really, really sincerely seek the Lord and make sure that, first of all, make sure that you don't get ahead of yourself and get ahead of God, and just wait for Him to bring the right person into your life. And He will. It'll be in His own time frame, but I feel like He has a special person for every one of us, and I'm sure thankful I found mine. And like I said, if you're careful and seek the Lord with all your heart, I know He'll be true to each of us, and He will eventually lead you to the right person.
That's very good. Very solid advice. Okay, so that's a little bit of a heavier question, so we're going to kind of get started into those.
Oh boy.
Well, it's not that heavy, but kind of we were talking about how you worked at the bank and stuff like that, and that's how you met Mom and everything. What would be, in your opinion, not being hard on yourself, because he's very hard on himself, I want to make that clear from the outset, what do you feel like is your greatest achievement in life, besides meeting Mom and being a dad?
Probably just, I don't have many, or any, but I would probably say my work ethic. I've always tried to be loyal to whoever I worked for at the time, and showed up when I'm supposed to be there, and then try not to call in sick any more than I have to, and be dependable and honest and trustworthy, that sort of thing, and just somebody that they could depend on.
It's I can attest that's true. He has a lot more achievements than that, but I think the word that I always think of you if I had to describe someone to someone how you are just overall in one word, I think that word would be faithful.
Aww.
Just as a provider, as a follower of Jesus, as a husband, as a dad, you're just truly faithful. That's the best word I can think of to describe it.
Well, I sure appreciate that.
Now, on the kind of more negative side, and like I told you, I told him at the outset of this interview, he can be as candid, or he doesn't have to answer. We can cut these parts out. But what do you feel like is your biggest regret in life?
Oh my. Let's see. I probably have several. Probably some financial decisions we made through the years would probably be up there. And I always tried to spend as much time with you and your mom as I could. With working the schedule, certain places I worked at, I had to work the night shift, and working from 8 to about 4 or 5 in the morning or later kind of took away from some time that I wish I could have spent with you all. But working those hours, you have to sleep, and by the time you sleep and then eat, it's about time to start working again. Probably, I can't say I would, if I had the chance. I'm afraid if I go back and change anything, it would mess up something very important. So I'm kind of afraid to tamper with God, what God did and didn't allow. So I don't think I would change too much.
Wow, that's really good. I think, for me personally, when you were talking about the financial decisions, I hope you don't mind me going into this, and like I said, we can cut this out, but I imagine you're talking about going into debt is one of the bigger things.
That probably, as we probably used credit cards when we were first married way more than we should have, and that kind of got us in a bind, and it took several years, but thank the Lord He was faithful, and right now we are debt free. All glory to God. But I would say one regret that I did happen to think of is I wish that I had spent more time studying His Word and praying and just trying to draw closer to Him, because that would make everything better.
I can agree with that. That's probably my main regret too. I think, like you were talking about a few moments ago, I think that what we don't realize is how God uses our mistakes and these things in our life that we look back on with so much remorse. But He sees the bigger picture, and like you said, we probably wouldn't want to see the what ifs.
Right.
I know I probably would shudder to think if things had just been slightly different, even something like debt, as much of a negative as that thing is, the lessons we've learned from it now, we may not be in the same life situation. And it's amazing how God has kind of turned so much in our lives that was meant for evil and made it good.
Yeah, that's right.
So I do think that's very insightful. I think that he does use our mishaps and mistakes.
And I hope that maybe you'll learn from the mistakes that we made and learn from that, what not to do over certain things.
Well, that was going to be my next question to you, actually. It's funny that you mentioned that. Just giving, kind of me and just any young person advice, what would you say would be the most important decisions financially? And I know what the main was probably going to be, don't get into debt, but
Yeah, that financially, that would probably, if you can make any purchase, just try to save up the money and pay it off, as soon as you can without going into debt or charging it. I know some things like a home, you almost have to get a mortgage.
oh yeah.
At times you probably have to get a car on credit, but anything else, I would say just buy like furniture, just buy one piece at a time and save, just do your best to save up for the next piece and go on from there.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. I think most young people don't realize that because you have like credit card companies and mortgage companies and all these different kind of huge corporations pushing young people into debt constantly. And I think it was almost even worse during when you and Mom were first married and stuff, because nobody said like, hey, this isn't a good idea. There's going to be consequences for this years down the road.
That's right.
Nobody talked about it. But now, thankfully, we are talking about it more and we are more aware. But even with that awareness, I don't think we're as careful as we should be. So I think that's very good advice.
And they make it so easy to get into debt, but then they don't help you get out of it.
Yes, exactly. I think even with college and stuff like that, that's where they get people right off rip. As soon as you're out of high school, you're already in debt, basically. So that's very, very true. Okay, we'll go back to kind of a more light question. Besides the Bible, what would you say your favorite book of all time is? Or you could do a top 3.
Let me think for just a minute.
Yeah.
I always liked The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. I thought that was very good. Pilgrim's Progress, very, very good. My mind just draws a blank.
No, those are 2 superb ones.
I'll try to think of it.
Yeah, we can wrap around back to it. Those are excellent. The life lessons in both of those books.
Call of the Wild, I enjoyed that
Oh
one.
my gosh. Yeah. Me too. I've loved that one since I was little. Those are 3 really solid picks, man. Very good. And another kind of lighter question. Now, this one I want to know singular, and then maybe your top 3 or 5, whatever you want to do. What is your favorite movie of all time, or your top 3?
Well, I don't know if you consider them movies, but I really enjoy The Chosen. It's just to me, they just draw you closer to the Lord and give you an insight into the scriptures. Like, I mean, reading the scriptures, you get an insight, but actually watching somebody go through the motions and speaking the scriptures out loud, it was really, to me, it was just a big help spiritually. I'm trying to think of some more. Let's see.
While you're thinking,
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I know some people have convictions against The Chosen, and I completely understand that, because you don't want to, especially like when you're praying or even reading it, you don't really want to picture their faces per se.
Right.
But for me, I've never had that issue after watching it. It's more of just a visualizer to be able to see this stuff happening in real time and to imagine what that must have been like, and to see it play out. It's drawn me so much closer to the Lord too. It's brought me out of some deeper depressions
Yeah.
sometimes.
Oh, and what are the brothers' names that are from
The Kendrick brothers?
Kendrick Brothers? They have just quite a few movies that are really good. Facing the Giants,
That's a good one.
Courageous. What's the one about the track?
All Overcomer.
Overcomer.
Yes.
Almost anything by them is just really encouraging.
That's 100% for sure. I agree with that. I don't think they've ever released a bad movie.
No.
At least not yet. But I'm with you. I think faith-based content
Yeah.
it's improved a lot over the years, I'd say, compared to even what it was when I was growing up. Back then, I'd say that almost one of the most high-quality things we had was VeggieTales.
Yeah.
And that's kind of saying a lot when you didn't really have any really high-quality adult Christian entertainment. But now, it's like a whole new era.
I was reading an article earlier about Mel Gibson and the Passion of the Christ movie that he made. I think it was 2006. And that really opened the door to a lot of other faith-based movies. And I think it said his budget for that was about $100 million. And it ended up grossing about $650 million. And that really opened the eyes of a lot of movie companies and producers, and they're more open. I guess what they say, money talks.
Yes.
And they're, that's the business they're in, is to make money. But I'm glad that did lead other companies to start making more Bible-based spiritual movies like that.
Me too. That's really interesting. I did not know that. I remember hearing in an interview one time that he said that he took it to I don't know how many distribution companies and they wouldn't accept it. So
Yeah.
that tells you a lot.
And
Things are different now.
And they're also in the process right now, start filming August for, it's the second part of Passion of the Christ. It's mostly about the resurrection. And that's supposed to be start filming right away.
Wow. That'll be powerful. I look forward to that. Okay, back to a more kind of heavy question. What is your favorite book of the Bible and why? And if there's a certain verse, it doesn't have to be in that book, but what is your favorite verse and why?
Well, I love every book of the Bible, but I've always enjoyed James. To me, it's just, for me, which is what I need, real basic and just easy to understand. And it's just so, the wording of it is so down to earth, and you can understand it right away. I always enjoy that. And it talks about money and riches and the evil of love and money and that sort of thing. And I also enjoy Hebrews. That book is just so deep, and there's so many spiritual nuggets in there that's just unbelievable.
Very
And
good.
probably the favorite verse, all things working together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose.
That's one of the best ones. Romans 8:28.
Right.
I was just thinking Romans would probably be in mine
Yeah.
also, but Hebrews, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And I think you've always loved James, even since I was little. You always talked about James. And one thing I love about James personally, and I think we've talked about this before, but there's so much of our modern church and society that wants to emphasize grace, and grace should be emphasized, obviously, but nobody wants to talk about works being a product of our salvation, and that when we get saved that we should be different and changed and doing good things for the kingdom. And I think James really explains that well, better than almost any other book. And that's why, ironically enough, a lot of people don't like James, but because it goes against the grain.
It does.
And when you read that, I think that fits you very well because you always do the right thing even when it's hard. I've seen that throughout my entire life. You even there have been jobs that you've been on that have been absolutely atrocious, and praise God, we're both, in case you don't know, we both get to work together, which is one of the greatest gifts of my life.
Huge blessing for me.
I could not ask for a better coworker.
Me
We make that joke a lot, but seriously, the gift that is to me, there's no way to really properly describe it. It's such a blessing, but and we both love our job, but in the past there have been jobs that you've had where even though it was horrible and the people you were working with treated you terribly, you pushed through every day. And I saw that even when I was little, when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, I would see you push through that, and it showed me the kind of man you are. And I've never forgotten it. And that's one reason why when there have been a lot of times when I've been, in school and when I was doing Liberty Online and different stuff, there were so many times I wanted to quit because I was so fed up with it and tired or whatever. But remembering his example is what helped me to not do that, to just persevere through it. So,
well, you're sure kind. I don't know,
It's
can't live up to that, but I will say that I've always tried to get my leadings from the Lord, and I never quit a full-time job. I've only had four full-time jobs.
wow.
And for some reason, every job has either ended or the job got outsourced to a different place. So I did work one part-time job and I quit to move on to something else. But thank the Lord, he's been so faithful in every way, and I can't give him enough praise for that.
He really has. It's all true. I can confirm it. That's beautifully said, Dad. Okay, back to a more lighthearted one.
Hooray!
What is your favorite food? It can be from out somewhere. And what is your favorite meal that Mom makes at home? They can be one and the same,
Right.
but
Well, there's nobody's cooking that I love as much as your mama's. Everything she makes is just wonderful. But she makes this a chicken casserole. She takes rice and I know there's artichokes in it. And she puts a lot of cheddar cheese on top and bakes it in the oven. In the last few minutes, she boils the cheese and it gets kind of little crusty. That's probably my favorite thing she makes. But there's a lot of them. But probably outside of that, I would say it's hard to beat a good ribeye steak.
I think yours are the best when it comes to those. You season a steak better than anyone I've ever met. I absolutely love when you grill. We don't get to do it too often, but when we do, it's like a delicacy, honestly. And here's another kind of more fun question. What is your favorite place to vacation? And what is your favorite place to have lived? And it can be one and the same once again, or it can be totally different. And why are they your favorite places?
Probably the vacation place I always enjoyed, and in fact the Lord allowed us to live there for 4 or 5 years, is Helen, Georgia. It's in the mountains, and it's so scenic and pretty, and you're right there on the Chattahoochee River. The fishing's good. If you like inner tubing, you can go tubing pretty much any time except the winter. And Gatlinburg's nice. But as far as a favorite place to live, I'd have to say right here in Tennessee, it's just probably my favorite.
Wow.
We've lived in places where you don't really have the seasons. And here you have all 4 seasons, and you get to watch the leaf change, and then this time of year everything's blooming and it's so pretty. But I would say probably Tennessee.
That's a blessing that God has brought us into this place.
It is.
It really is.
I think you saved the best for last.
Yeah, I agree. That's a beautiful way of putting it. Now, kind of back to a slightly heavier question. Who would you say is your biggest spiritual influence? It can be somebody who's alive or dead. It it could even be somebody, a Bible writer. It doesn't matter who it is. Who's the person who has most impacted you spiritually?
Well, there's several. My parents, of course, especially my mom, she always raised us to pray and to love the Lord, and we went to church on a regular basis. And she first probably is the one that introduced me to God, and took me to Sunday school, that sort of thing. But there's really no what's the word? There's no competition or whatever. It's your mama. She has just been such a godly example to me all through the years, ever since we first met, even since we've been married especially. She's just been such an example before me, lived what the Bible teaches in every way, and just so patient and kind. And I would say she has drawn me so close to the Lord in many, many ways.
I agree. I'm the same way. She's one of the most special people I've ever known. I couldn't ask for a better mom. This one, we started with this because, I was halfway joking, but now that we've been into it a little bit longer, in your opinion, doesn't have to match anybody else's definition, just off the top of your head, what do you truly think that the meaning of our lives are? And what do you think that God wants that meaning to be?
Well, I think God created us to serve Him and praise Him and try to live our lives according to His Word as best we can. And believe me, we all make mistakes. I've sure made my share, way more than I care to admit. But I always try to draw as close to the Lord as I can. And I just think that He wants us to do our best day by day to set an example for Him. And like I've heard your mama say many times, we're supposed to be Jesus' hands and feet and mouth to other people and try to lead other lives to Him, and just being a good example on all that we say and do, and just study His Word and that sort of thing.
I think that's the best definition possible, in my opinion.
I don't know about that.
I agree. What you were talking about in the very beginning, I think one of the main reasons He created us to begin with was to be in relationship with Him. Like you were talking about, serving Him, praising Him, loving Him. I think that's what we're here for. I'll never understand how anybody can go through life without Him, and without. It feels like life would be such a meaningless, void thing.
There's no hope. I mean,
No.
what's the point of even waking up in the morning if you don't have Him to lean on and talk to, that sort of thing?
Completely agree. Okay, getting down to the last few questions. Here's a fun one. Now, I know you love many, many hymns and Christian songs, and I'll ask you later about that, but what is your favorite just song in general? It does not need to be a Christian one. It can be if you want it to be, but and your favorite music artist, who would that be?
Well, music artist, that's an easy one. I grew up listening to this fella from the time I was probably 10 years old. Had all his records, and he has so many songs that I like. It's not gospel, but his songs have such a real meaning to them. Is John Denver.
Absolutely.
I love his voice. I love the way he plays the guitar. And like I said, his songs just have such a, down to earth, deep meaning. And I can relate to so many of them. It just really, really blessed me. And spiritual hymns, oh my, there's so many. Amazing Grace, The Old Rugged Cross, Rock of Ages. But probably for me, I would say my favorite is What a Friend We Have in Jesus. That's another one of those just plain written songs that I think everybody can connect to.
Man, I love that. That's excellent take. I think, in my opinion, and this is a really bold statement, but I know you'll agree with me, I think Annie's song is probably the prettiest love song ever written.
Yeah,
I don't think it's even close.
That would probably be the, what would you call it? Just
the pinnacle.
the song not as far as non-gospel music, that would probably be the song. We had that played at our wedding.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That song really is just beautiful.
Completely agree. It's one of the best.
And Back Home Again, I always
Mm.
like that one too.
That is a good one. I also think back to what you were saying, what a friend we have in Jesus. I and we didn't really talk about this too much. I guess we can now. But in when I was born, you and Mom were part of a group where God's love and His friendship with us, His relationship with us, was not emphasized. To put it in a more kind way, it was a lot more legalistic and works-based. And I grew up, just me, I don't know how you felt about this, but I grew up kind of thinking of God as this very angry man in the sky just waiting to kind of just strike me down if I stepped out of line. But praise God, you and Mom got me out of that when I was at an age where now I can see His true nature and how loving He is and what a friend He is.
Yeah.
Looking back on those times, how have you dealt with that and coming out of that whole situation and all the experiences that you and Mom went through, and how did they change you for the better and for the worse?
Well, I think God had His hand in all of that, and I really think He wanted us to go through that whole situation, and we learned a lot from it. And I think it drew us closer to Him in a lot of different ways. And it just taught me to really seek Him about everything that we do. Before we make a move, we always pray and try to make sure that it's His will, that He'll just make whatever the decision is just real plain, one way or another, yes or no. This is what I want you to do, or no, I don't want you to do this. And I've never been one. I've heard a lot of people say that they hear God's voice. I've never really had that experience, but I feel that in my life that God is led more by events and circumstances more than anything. And that would be my advice, probably more than anything I can think of, is just to pray, and just try to get to the point where if it's time to make a decision, just be definite. Like, Lord, I just feel like you want me to go this way, or feel like definitely you want me to be with this person, and just go from there.
Man, that kind of leads me into my last question. It's just kind of an open book, but what advice would you give to anybody watching this video? What are some kind of like final thoughts that you would want to leave us with? It can be about anything you want.
Is other than finding Jesus, I think the most important thing a person can do is find the person that God has for you to be with in your life. And just once you find that person, just devote yourself to them, and always keep the respect. You never want to lose that initial respect you have for your spouse, and just be kind to them, and patient, and love them, and just try to love them as Jesus would.
Well said. This was a great start, hopefully, to a series that we're going to be doing from here on. And I hope we can do another one of these, because I felt like you said so many edifying things. And I thank you for being willing to do this with me.
Well, I want to say one more thing.
Yeah, please.
Is I want to say how much I appreciate you and the life you live, and your example to other young people. I think is just, you've set the bar really high, and I think in work and in your social life and everything else, you just are very pleasing to God. And like God said of, I think it was David, a young man after God's own heart. And sure do love and appreciate you so much. We waited, I'm sure a lot of you know this, but Cheryl and I had been married 12 and a half years before the Lord sent us Zach, and we had just pretty much given up the thought of ever having a child. And finally, we just submitted, God, if it's your will that we don't have a child, that's fine. And it was very short time after that the Lord sent us Zach, and he has just been, he's more of a blessing than I could ever put into words. And he just means so much to both of us, and I really don't know what we would do without him. But, we love him with all our heart, and he is just, other than Jesus, he is just the perfect son.
Oh my gosh. Well, I thought we were gonna make it through. Okay.
And this is what I'm talking about. He's just so humble and tender-hearted, and just a sweet person in every way.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Love you so much.
I love you so much. Oh my gosh. We made it through to the very end. Oh my goodness. Thank you all for watching this, and
Thank you for your patience.
as you can see, I am a very blessed son. Could not ask for a better father. And I wanted to start this, like I said at the beginning of this video, I wanted to start this series with him because of how much he means to me, and I hope it was as much of a blessing to you all listening as it was for me to listen to his answers. This has been so much fun, and Dad, thank you again.
Aw.
I love and appreciate you so much.
Thank you for allowing me to do this.
Well, it was a blast. Like I was about to say earlier, I hope that we can do this again in the future, because I know that what you said is such sage advice that other young people don't have a lot of good influences, and I know how many young people don't have dads, and I realize how blessed I am to be in the position I am in. People talk about privilege a lot, but I actually do feel like I am privileged in that way to have the dad I do. I'm so incredibly blessed. God has been so gracious. But
Thank you for putting up with me.
oh my gosh. Well, we made it through pretty good, you all, till the end, like I said. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope to make this a series, like I said. If you all would like me to continue, just let me know in the comments. And like I said, I love and appreciate you so much, and
You too, babe.
hopefully we can do this again soon. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
It
thank
was
you.
very edifying. We'll see you all in the next video. The Lord bless you, and until next time, we'll see you soon.
God bless.